I want to get back to talking about modules, and that's what we're really talking about today, is Dungeons & Dragons modules versus homebrew modules, because one of the challenges with some of the Dungeons & Dragons modules is how difficult they can be to follow at times, and how do you work around players who go off script. So talking about Dungeons & Dragons modules in particular, because we are 5e focused, what have your experiences been with them?
Well, so we were just talking about this the other day that, compared to you, I'm kind of like a rookie or a novice, maybe a sophomore, third year QB or whatever. But, I definitely, like I mentioned before, I think the first town I ever created was off of perhaps what was one of the first towns ever created in D&D, which is Hamlet. The whole Greyhawk setting is something that I think, just as a young D&D, or not young, but new D&D player, I was like, okay, that's something that I need to know. I've recognized that this is a pretty iconic piece of the world. And so something that was awesome to me is I love the idea of the sandbox. I don't want to feel like I'm playing that video game where it doesn't matter what choice you make, it's going to end up the way that it does.
Yeah, I definitely understand that, and that's one of the great things about D&D is if your players want to spend an hour and a half arguing over who drives the carriage and who sits inside the carriage, and that's fun, and you can find a way to make that fun for you as the person facilitating the game, go for it. The idea here is we've taken time out of our days to have fun together, and one of the things I think is one of the few social gathering games that we have left. I mean, gone are the days where you'd sit in front of a TV at your buddy's house sleeping over, split-screen shooters, LAN parties, and I think Dungeons & Dragons is starting to fill that void in a way. I mean, I wouldn't say fill that void because I think it always has been what it is, but, now that there is a void for it, here's this vacuum of space that D&D can just come in.
With 5e, it's simpler, it's mainstreamed, and again, I think perhaps it improves upon what is maybe too sandboxy. What is a town or an early Greyhawk setting where, I mean, dude, Gygax put like how many gold and silver pieces each individual had in the town. He said like every single item in every single building, which is cool. I think so many people love that, including the creators of the world. But like, anytime that I've ever run as the DM, even like with you guys, at a certain point you realize like there does like a railroad runs on tracks because people need to get somewhere.
Well, and think about it like art too. Okay, have you ever heard of Wimble builders?
I've not.
So a Wimble builder is that style of art like Where's Waldo, where everything's like really chaotic, lots of little pieces that are kind of conjointed together to make a larger image. I find they're very satisfying to look at a lot of times. You know what I'm talking about? That I would say Where's Waldo is sort of the epitome of kind of Wimble builder art as people would probably know it. And I think that what you're describing with Gygax has that kind of component. It's like, how detailed do you want to be? And some people are doing broad strokes, very impressionist style art with their GMing, and other people, find the passion in like, did you see the wizard that I put in the bottom left corner? Of that Where's Waldo style art. I think that's brilliant. And one of the things that 5e has done better than other editions is cater to the GM, is cater to their style. And I think of something like the Yawning Portal that came out. And I run Tomb of Horrors annually, as you know, for Halloween. And even though it's an older module, you can see how far we've come in the community with how we run these modules, And in Hoard of the Dragon Queen, I remember reading through that module, having a difficult time. I just want to know what the story is. So I know where I can sort of freestyle and take things into my own hands. And I think that's a kind of I don't want to say it's a problem, because there's a large group of people that really enjoy how 5th edition lays out their modules, but I definitely think that for someone like me, and I hope there are others who feel the way I do, I kind of want to take the reins here. I want to drive the car.
Also, if you have if there is some aspect of railroad, it's an art to balance. you as a DM want to know, well, I can facilitate this moment better if I know some of the events that might happen later. I can tell the story in a cooler way. In a sandbox game, there is no, driving story arc. It's just a completely open world, and the players will decide what they do. The problem with that, though, is, and I think that I, as an idealist, want to just say, oh, of course, sandboxing is the way to go. It's the real world. But if you don't have that, you are relying on really, really high-level skill of your players to create a story out of nothing.
I have a lot of thoughts on that too. I mean, sandboxing is great when you're playing with people who understand that, they're very driven people. They know how to find responsibility. They know how to find things to do. And then all of a sudden, that's great. And sometimes you play with players who need a little more direction, right? Mm-hmm. And then you find yourself saying, okay, well, if you need a little more direction, no problem. I can throw something your way. I can throw options at you. And it's a real, you got to feel the water out. It's not that the game dictates how well you're going to be as a GM. I would argue that your ability to tell a story, right, is going to dictate a big part of how you're going to be as a GM.
Writing versus lore. Are you just going to create all of these things that exist in your world, or are you going to be a thoughtful deliverer of the content in a way that is palatable and meaningful for your players?
And so if you're someone who's practiced in the ways of writing a good story, and you understand some basic structures of storytelling, I think that you're in a good spot.
Has come to take the city by storm, because he cares about making things fair. So Dr. Weaver, beware, the demon is here.